Hello and welcome back to another episode of Charla Football. I'm your host, as always, Gerardo. And finally, I got my boy here, Tomas. It's been a few weeks, bro, since you've been here, but I'm glad to have you back. And what a way to get you back on this road to 2026, bro. We're gonna talk about Mexico versus New Zealand and Mexico versus Canada, both of the amistosos that went down this past few days. Obviously, the Selección Nacional didn't have a lot of time to train, so I don't think we saw anything outstanding, at least anything that really stood out besides in the win against New Zealand. But to be fair, I mean you are playing New Zealand, so they're not necessarily the best opposition or the best the best team to really test your ability against. But overall, I mean, let's just go into a quick rating real quick. What would you rate this international window before we get into everything?
Honestly, I think considering both games, I rated it a 6.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
Not go,
solid.
not going lower because we didn't lose any games,
Yeah,
but no higher because although we beat New Zealand, that was expected. It was supposed to happen. We were supposed to
yeah.
beat New Zealand, maybe even by more. But I just would have liked to see more of a. Well, we'll get into it deeper, but a style where it's more like they had no chance. You get me?
Like
Like
against New Zealand or against Canada?
both, like more of a against Canada, yeah, because Canada with the style that we played, they created
Mhm.
very little, like very
They only
few.
had like one chance, realistically.
So I would like a style more. I know this is like a brand new team for Vasco, but just a little bit more convincing, like a little bit more like, oh yeah, like they're good, they're this, but right now we really don't know what their ceiling. You get me?
Yeah, and that's gonna take a lot of time. I mean, like he even says in his conferences, these are all games in preparation for the World Cup. So that's the real test. Not even the Gold Cup is going to be considered a test for them because I mean you don't really have teams of good stature to really measure yourself against.
I
But
mean, this Gold Cup maybe because you do have France, Colombia,
if
and
you
all.
bring them in, that's not confirmed yet. We have to
Yeah, but
confirm
how
that.
would I say this? France's B team is a top 10, top like 11 team in the world.
Yeah,
France's
yeah,
B.
really agree. But
And
that's it. We have to confirm those first before we even like start throwing them into the mix of the Gold Cup. We'll see what happens. But I mean, we got the next international windows in Mexico against Valencia against US. Those are good. Those are going to be good teams to measure ourselves against as well. But anyways, just sticking to this international window, going to the New Zealand game that happened at the Rose Bowl. Overall, what are your general thoughts and feelings of the match itself? And then we'll get into a little bit of the lineups, the players, all that, etc.
like before the game or how?
No, that just the actual game itself, not before the game, but going
Versus
into
New
the
Zealand,
game.
right?
Yeah, versus New Zealand. What are your like general takeaway from this match?
It was just, I mean, it's New Zealand. Like we've beaten them before. We've beaten them by worse,
Yeah,
by way more
9-3
goals.
in the aggregate in
Like the
the
aggregate,
qualifying.
which is like 5-1 and 4-2. Which like four
Yeah,
two is like because they were at home, but I mean, the wingers are way better. Chino coming in for Quinones was like the best thing that could have happened in the course of the game.
yeah, for sure.
Alvarado shown why he's way better than Antuna and should have been starting this whole time. And I mean, I was saying it. Hundreds of people were saying it online. We were looking at it on TikTok. We were looking at the crazy season here with Chivas. Chivas, a team who is good defensively, but with no attackers. Alvarado was like one of their leading scorers, and he was playing as a 10 and a right winger. He was doing it all for Chivas. So
Yeah.
I
On the
knew
top on that topic, like talking about the winger, just talking about the lineup in general. Did you like the lineup going into the game?
no, I didn't like
Really?
the lineup just because I didn't. The only person that I didn't like was Quinones because if you're gonna use Quinones and you're gonna use Santi, I'd rather have it as a two center forwards,
Strikers,
those
yeah.
two forwards. Because Quinones at the left wing, he loses the ball too many times. He tries to overpower players physically, which it works with when you overpower the left back or when you overpower the right mid coming at you. But on a 2v1, it it's so difficult to overcome both players physically. You have to be a very technical player.
Mhm.
And I mean, he isn't. He's strong, big. He has a good shot, but he has to be in the proximity of the goal.
Definitely.
So I don't like him on the left wing. That's the only reason I don't like that lineup. Gallardo, I honestly think Arteaga is better than Gallardo, but he wasn't called up, and Gallardo does have the experience. but I don't hate it. Like I'm not hating on that. I just think
Yeah.
we have maybe a better option.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Chavez. I know Romo's there because Edson's out. Pineda, I wish we had a different
Like,
10, but right now we don't. And
that's
he's
all
he's
we got, bro. That's all we got.
and he's decent. He's decent at what he does, so I like that. Israel Reyes at right back, I think, in my personal opinion, I think he's a more of a right center back, and we've
Yeah.
seen that throughout the course of the game. But it's not terrible,
Because when you
right back.
got Reeves on that right hand side, like we saw against New Zealand, against New Zealand, you want as much offensive prowess as possible. You got to get people in the box. You got to get people up there. Reyes never went up whatsoever. He was always playing like that third right center back, which is
I don't know.
fine. You give Piojo all that space to create, but I mean, you also give Piojo a lot of a disadvantage because he has to drop back so much to defend too.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult, and the thing with the right back position is, yes, I understand the defensive importance, but
Mhm.
modern day right backs have to be very good in both. And if you're not good in one, then I mean, you're not a right back, you're a center back. Or if you're good in attacking, then they usually push you up to winger. So you have to be
Mhm.
good in both.
Going to just the game itself, what I like about the game is that from the very first minute we showed intensity, showed heart, and I mean, based on that, we got rewarded. We got that first goal within the first 5 minutes from Orbelin Pineda, which was a really good play. Romo into Piojo. Piojo drops it for Santi. Santi lets it go to Orbelin. Orbelin with the good shot. I mean, the keeper probably could have done a lot more if he was a world class keeper, but I mean, that's how the game starts. And I think that kind of just set the tone for the whole match. New Zealand were never gonna they weren't going to recover from that because there was just too much pressure from the Mexican half from the Mexican side. And then there was like that awkward period after the water break, like the 25th minute mark, where New Zealand had a little bit of more of the ball. Obviously, didn't really create much. But then going into the second half, Quinones comes out injured. I think that change for Chino Huerta, like you said, it changed the game, bro. Honestly, it changed everything for the Selección Mexicana. He brought in a different energy, a different like side of left winger that we never really see, that we haven't seen in a while, and that Quinones cannot give you because he's not that guy. Um, Chino Huerta really with his first touch gets on the score sheet. He had like an opportunity to probably score a hat trick if he wanted to too.
Yeah,
He had such a good showing, bro, and that's why he started the next match. But I mean, then we got the second goal, the third goal, and then I mean it's pretty much game over right there. But that is expected when you're playing against a team like New Zealand. And I think what really stood out to me was the fact how Javier was so upset with the team because he knew we could have scored 5 or 6 goals, not taking those opportunities. And even if you score three, you should never be content with just scoring three and then just stepping off the gas. Like you should, the best way to show respect to your opponent is by putting all your chances away, not by like playing little passes or doing little jukes here and there. It's just constantly getting in the box and scoring and scoring and scoring. Ruthlessness, basically. And I
yeah,
wish I saw a little bit more of that against New Zealand because our players had chances. Santi had a few. Quinones had one. Orbelin had one. Um, Chino had a few in the second half besides his goal. So
yeah. I mean, it's sometimes it's what it's the circumstances of the game. Maybe since it's a friendly, they don't want to risk a lot because Quinones did come off injured.
yeah, yeah,
Well, another subject I do want to touch is that the first half when we were on them, when we would go directly on them. I mean, how many times did Quinones lose the ball going forward and breaking momentum? I mean, even El Vasco Aguirre called his attention. He was like think with your head, like let the ball go. You know, you're fast. Let the ball go. Run forward. It's
hmm
just, I mean, I was counting and he lost the ball 11 times in the time that he was there. And I mean, I counted Alvarado's and Santis too. You know, to be fair, but the Alvarado got the ball, lost the ball only 3 times because he's so good technically, which helps him a lot, and he knows when to let the ball go.
hmm
And I mean, Santi barely gets the ball, so his are going to be lower regardless. But it's just when Chino came in, Chino lost the ball about like 5 times, and the other 5, 6 times he would dribble like past the player. He would like do
yeah.
something with the ball. I know he's technically gifted, but just he's gotten so much better since his little stint at Chivas, and He's actually surprised me, as a player because a couple months ago, like 5, 6 months ago, we knew him as a sporadic player. He had good moments, and then he would just, like sit down or like lay down and not really do anything for the rest of the game. But now it's completely different. I mean, versus in the Canada, I mean, well, we're still in the New Zealand game. In that New Zealand game, he came on and it was incredible the way he was taking players, the way that he was creating opportunities, how he scored as well. I mean, it's something we haven't seen in a while from a winger in Mexico because we were
Mhm.
looking for wingers before the Copa America, and it's like we had no answers.
Yeah, I mean, that's his natural position. I love watching him on the left wing versus on the right wing because he's that kind of player that can cut in, shoot, take on a few players. I mean, there's a reason why Liverpool were looking for him. Unfortunately, the move didn't go through, and he even talked about it that he was ready to go. He had the maletas pretty much set up for him to move to England and get that move going, whether he was going to go to the championship or not on loan. But I mean, unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. But there's a reason that a lot of people are looking out for this player. I mean, he's still young. He has such high potential, and I think is a player that he needs to definitely get more minutes in the national team level. And I'm glad that he got the minutes that he did get in this window.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, overall, it was a good showing against New Zealand. You have to put up, I mean, you have to win 3-0 for sure. There's no doubt about that. Another thing that I wanted to touch on was the fact that there was nobody in the stands pretty much. I think we saw like 20K, about 20, 25,000 fans in the Rose Bowl that fits up to 90,000 fans. And I went to the game. I didn't buy a ticket myself. I did not want to go inside and pay for a ticket, but I went to the like outside the outskirts, just doing some content with some fans, and it was a different vibe. Like you can tell that the people that were there weren't true fans of the Mexican national team. They were just people that they wanted to just go drink and have fun with their friends or with
Yeah,
their like
or
they
go
didn't
party.
there's a lot of times where I was asking people like, "Oh, who do you think is gonna score?" And they're like, "I don't know who's on the team. Like, can you tell me a player that's on the team?" I was like, how are you gonna come to a game you don't know who's playing, like the 11 that's gonna be fielded?" There's a handful of fans that did know what was going on, but a handful as well, they just didn't know who they were playing against, who was gonna be on the field, who the goalkeepers was. Bro, there was a moment where I asked a fan, I was like, what do you think of Javier Aguirre's third stint as Mexican national team manager? And he was like, "Oh yeah, he's such a good player. Like I can't wait for."
Word.
I was like, "No, bro. I couldn't post that. I couldn't post that."
There's
I was like,
no
I
way.
was like, "I appreciate it. I appreciate the help." But like, just to get an idea on the kind of fans that went to that game, the true fans they stayed at home. Watching the game, trying to see if there's a reason they should pull up to the next match in LA. I mean, based on the New Zealand game, I mean, you can go to another one, but based off of the Canada game, I mean, right now I think they just need more time, more practices to really show the fans like, okay, look, this is what we're building towards. Right now, it's really hard to tell after a few practices and two matches against, I mean, pretty mid level of competition, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, nobody that I know went to that game. So,
Mhm.
and I have a big family, and I mean, they have big families as well. So that says a lot.
Yeah. Now, lo más destacado from this match, the player that I think that we have to highlight, I think is Romo. And I told you I was like Romo masterclass. He did play well, and I told you that we have to give him his flowers, and then he sent me a gif of like some dead ass flowers.
Some burnt
But
flowers.
you have to give credit where it's due. He did play a good match against New Zealand, but to be fair, I mean you are playing against New Zealand. I'll keep repeating that. We didn't see much of him against Canada, and we'll touch on that as well when we get into the Canada match. But overall, I think um, he was literally all over the pitch. One of my favorite players in the match. I think he's going through a good moment. I think him with Lira or him with Edson or Edson and Lira and giving Romo a little bit more space to attack would definitely be a good mix. Um, but I guess we'll see moving forward how that's going to work out because we have good midfielders. I wouldn't say world class or anything above average. I think we have just good enough midfielders. Besides Edson being like a world class defensive midfielder.
The thing with Roma is that he's a holding mid, but he runs all around the field doing wall passes. So it's like for me, for me, it's like, what's the basis of a defensive midfielder? You sit
You
in front
stay.
of the You sit in front of the center backs, you hold there. You know, you're a pivot. If the center back wins the ball or it's a divided ball between the center back and the forward, you win that ball and you play forward. You get me? Which is what Edson does really well. The thing with Romo is that although he can do that, he likes going up a lot, and that creates that little confusion with Luis Chavez, which now has to have him sit down low.
Luis Chavez, real quick. I did not like his match. That he was invisible.
I mean,
pretty much all 90 minutes, bro.
It's gonna be difficult when you're holding mid is going up. You're gonna have to cover that spot. Like you're really gonna have to cover that spot. And I think I could see Luis Chavez. I mean, face he looked annoyed. Well, because Romo's running up in here, running up in there, which to the typical fan it shows, you know, like oh, el aguerrido, this, that, but he's really breaking the mold of the midfield. You know, he's going up. He is showing a lot of part in character by fighting these balls, and I'm not taking away from that, but I'm just saying the midfield scheme is broken when your holding mid does that. That's why in my opinion, Edson better, which I don't think anybody can argue that, or even Lira. I mean, Lira does a good job. He goes up too, but he doesn't.
Bro, you won't see him like inside of the box, basically.
Yeah. He doesn't forget that his priority is to cover the midfield so the center backs aren't attacked directly. So that's the only thing wrong with Romo in my opinion. Other than that, yeah, he did a good game and he created a lot of possession going forward for Mexico. But I mean, I just don't think that's his job.
And I don't think that should be his job because we can see that he has talent going forward. Defensively, I mean, he can recover balls, but I think you leave that up to Edson Alvarez. Like you leave that up to Edson when he's back. Like he's gonna be that guy that sits in front of the defense, distributing passes. I think Romo should be pushing up a little higher because right now we're not seeing the best version of Chavez either. Whether he's on the ball or off the ball, like he doesn't create enough, and I don't see enough for me to be like, oh yeah, he needs to be an undisputed starter in this team. You know,
I mean,
Romo, Edson, and Orbelin, or Lira, Edson, and then Romo a little up higher. Like I said, there's so many things that you can do with that midfield.
I think our best bet right now would be Lira, Edson, and Orbelin because you have two midfielders who hold back and one creative midfielder who, although he isn't, in my opinion, the best at going forward, he is one of the best at creating like opportunities to go forward.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion.
Overall, that kind of wraps up the whole New Zealand matchup. We did see Cordova, Linus, Henry come in, but I mean, I didn't really see anything destacado there. You can say like, oh yeah, they need to come on and start the next match, and they didn't come on and start the next match. So yeah, that was pretty much it from the New Zealand match from the Mexican standpoint that we can really talk about. It was a convincing 3-0 win. But going into the Canada match, that's where things were a little bit more shaky. You didn't know how they were going to line up, whether Vasco was going to change everything dramatically. And luckily, he didn't make a lot of crazy changes. He basically kept the same lineup, besides Montes, who went to Russia to complete his move to Locomotive, bringing in El Toro Guzman at center back, Julian Araujo getting in at right back. Piojo kept his position. Santi kept his position. Chino Huerta coming on for Quiñones, who's injured or just kind of watching out. They're watching out for him. And then Lira in the midfield for Chavez, which I personally like, and you liked as well. I like him at the base of that mid.
I like
because that's kind of his position in Cruz Azul. In Cruz Azul, they play like a 3 at the back, and he's kind of like the one in the middle, just sitting in front of the defenders. And he can do that very, very well with the Mexican national team as well. So overall, just give me a quick rating against the Canada game before we get into the little details of the match. What would you give the Canada game?
Like a 5.5, 6.
Just passing, basically.
Basically, just
I probably didn't lose. Similar.
Just because they didn't lose.
Yeah. And we definitely could have won. I think we could have won too. Same way Canada could have won if they scored their chances, but we did have better half chances. We did have better. We forced at least 2 saves out of their goalkeeper. So,
I mean, it's just, you know, we were the protagonists of the game. We had the ball for, I think, I would say in the more in the instances that mattered more, which was like towards the end of the second half, towards the end of the game,
Yeah.
and just that the fact that we create so little and nothing was able to be created clearly. I mean, we got that opportunity for Chino Huerta that was on Santi, but that's really only one. And then, towards the end of the game, Canada gets tired. We start getting a little bit desperate. Johan Vasquez has a shot. Roberto Alvarado has a shot. But my thing is like, there's no clear idea of how to create an opportunity. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's very like CONCACAFiano, like at CONCACAF, like it's like, well, oh, whatever happens. You get me, defend first, whatever happens second.
Yeah,
And
I mean that's kind of what's attributed to Vasco, though. I mean, when you've seen his teams in La Liga and with Mallorca specifically, where it's defend first, make the game difficult for the opponent first, especially knowing that the opponent is slightly better than you. Uh, they pretty much give that initiative to the opponent, disrupt their game, and then we'll get one. Because eventually, throughout 90 minutes, any team is bound to at least get one or two chances, pretty much, if you do things correctly. And we did that, but we just weren't able to capitalize.
yeah,
And
but
that's the thing that I feel like they need to work on is the clinicality when it comes to being in the final third. So yes, creating, but like in those few moments that we do create, Santi's got to put that away. Pio has to put that away. Johan Vasquez, well, to be fair, it was a good block from Davies, but those few opportunities that you do get, you at least got to put one of them away. That's all I would say.
no, I mean, it's not that simple anymore. Football isn't that
Yeah,
simple anymore where it's just, defend first and the opportunity you get score it. Because I mean, no team in the world really does that anymore. I mean, look at the World Cup champions. Argentina creates so much. I mean, even in this Copa America final, Colombia created so much as well. And it's not that they were missing like I'm not saying like clear cut chances. I'm saying like opportunities where somebody gets a hit on it or it goes inside of the box and you could have done something.
yeah,
But my take is this: Vasco has shown that he has taught this selection how to defend, how to go into duels and how to win these duels because that's what they did versus Canada. They won a lot of these duels. Although there was a lot of fouls, I didn't mind the fouls because they were fucking soft. And
yeah,
my idea is this: Rafa Marquez is there for a reason, and Rafa Marquez knows how to do two things very well when he was a player. He knows how to play out the back and he knows how to maintain possession, and which is it's something that we need in this team because I mean we'll start with the keeper, Malagon. Good keeper. He had a great save, but he can't play with his fucking feet.
yeah. He had
Up,
probably a handful of good passes, but other than that, they were pretty much clearances to nobody that can hold up the ball. Pretty
I
much,
mean,
Santi
I
can't do
see,
that.
I see Johan Vasquez, tracking back, checking into the ball, and Malagon's just fucking blasting it. And when your center back comes low and he's like right next to you, and you blast the ball out, you're leaving this whole fucking gap right here between the midfielder and your center back,
Mhm.
which is just. And I mean, I forgot the center forward's name, but it's
Kyle Larin?
no, it was I think the one that was pressing was the left winger. He's like blondish. I forgot his name.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot his name too, but I know what you're talking about.
But so he's pressing, and then he's coming like 15, 20 yards out, right? Malagon can clearly do whatever he wants with the ball, and he just fucking clears it to the midfield, bounces off some Canadian's head, and thank God it went hard enough where, he wasn't able to bring it down or
Control
head it in the
it. Mhm.
direction he wanted to.
Yeah, yeah.
But, like, think of it. Think
There
about
were
it like
literally
this.
like two opportunities like that where if you're playing against Spain, against France, they're gonna control the ball and they're gonna play from right there. You're gonna concede an opportunity from that. But because it's against Canada, not trying to talk down on them, but they don't have necessarily a Spanish or French level of quality.
It's
They're
not
they're not
even
you're not gonna concede from there.
like not even France versus Spain. I remember when that happened with versus Sweden when Mexico played Sweden when that happened. The Swedish player that heads the ball down to his left winger. The left winger plays the Swedish player, and they're in again.
Mhm.
So I mean, the Swedes can do that. I know that Denmark's able to do that. I mean, whoever we get in the World Cup that comes from UEFA is gonna eat us up with that shit.
Yeah.
So it's you're supposedly an A level keeper. You're a pro. You're playing one of the best teams in North America. Control the fucking ball, and play out. I mean,
Yeah.
even Ala Rangel, he's like the same level as you, and he can do that. Alex Padilla, I know he can do that because he's been doing with Athletic Bilbao. So in modern day football, it's not just saving the ball and being able to have a big kick anymore.
You
It's
gotta you gotta be able to play out the back.
you gotta
You have to
maintain,
be
you gotta
that
give
11th player.
You gotta be you gotta be the 11th player that's able to maintain possession, that's able to build up because you're in a game with against Canada, who is, let's be honest, they're physically better than us. They're more prepared than us physically. You know, they've shown that they can run a lot more than we can.
Mhm.
Bring the ball down, pass it, let them run. And it's just that's very important. Like that's the reason that Ederson is able to stay at Man City, although he's not one of the best goalkeepers in terms of saves and reflexes. And I'm saying this, you know, comparing him to like Donnarumma or other keepers who are better at saving. But the fact that he can play with his feet is what maintains him at one of the best clubs who can maintain possession.
Yeah, if he wasn't good with his feet, he would have been gone like 2, 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean it's clear. But I mean that's my only vision from
It's really,
Malagón.
it's honestly really hard to take anything away from this match because again, it was a 0-0. It was choppy the whole first half specifically. I think there was a stat that one of the guys on Twitter said it was that the Mexican national team had like 12 fouls and the Canadians had like 2 in the first half.
Yeah.
So 3-4 times the amount of fouls. So that was pretty crazy to hear. But and it's kind of crazy to see from Mexican national team standpoint. You don't expect the Mexican national team to be that kind of team. You expect the other teams to be playing like that against Mexico. But in
I
the
don't mind
press
it.
conference, El Vasco, yeah, I don't mind it either, to be honest. I mean, we understand the level of quality isn't what we had 5, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This is what we got right now. And I think there was definitely a few players that we could have added that would have helped us play a little better. Talking about Edson, Chucky, maybe Raul Jimenez if he was in a better state physically. Um, but based on the talent that we have right now, I mean, that's all you can really do. And I wanted to ask you about the words that Vasco said, saying that, well, against Canada, like we know how they play. They are pretty much like that as well, where they're very choppy. They like to disrupt the match. They like to foul a lot. Or they're very intense. They played like that against Uruguay, which is why they were beating them for most of the game. They were this close, literally this close to winning the third spot in the Copa
Yeah.
America. And we have to
I
remember,
mean,
bro, this is a Canada team that this isn't a Canada team from like 15, 20 years ago where they were nobodies in CONCACAF. Like this is a Canada team that they've done things honestly a little bit better than the US. But like besides exporting players, they have quality players that play in important teams. I mean, Bombito, he plays at Nice. The two center backs they play as starters in the French league. Alfonso Davies, one of the best left backs in the world, and I don't think anyone can really doubt that he's at least top 10, top 15 in the world.
no, he's
Uh,
top five.
Jonathan David, who's been pretty consistent with Lille. Kyle Loreen, he's the only one where it's like, okay, he's whatever, he's all right. But overall, I mean, Eustáquio as well in the midfield, plays for Porto as a starter for Porto. Players that have recorrido, like they have enough, that they have time in Europe and they play in important teams, important matches. So this isn't a team to take lightly, and I think that's the mentality that we came out with. Like this isn't a team that we can just like play around, play out the back because they're gonna press you from the very first moment. And I like that we didn't try to do that too often because the few moments that we did try to do that in the first like 10, 15 minutes, we were getting eaten up. We were getting eaten up like nothing. They were taking
Yeah.
the ball away from us, and then they had the ball in possession.
Yeah.
So once we saw that, that's when we started going long, trying to win the balls up. But the thing is that we don't have a player up top that can really hold the ball up for us. Santi isn't that guy. He's that guy that runs in behind and can score. But
My thing is this:
uh,
when if your idea is to go long, you need two center forwards because you need one to either header it or control it, and you need the other one to play off that header or that hold it.
mhm.
And I mean, that's my idea, and I thought that Vasco was going to be able to see that, but he wasn't, and that's ultimately what led us to the 0-0 result because his idea is that as long as they don't take from us, but then he thinks second, like, well, let's go take from them. But for me, it's like play more risky. Let's take from them. Even if we have to sacrifice one goal, let's go at least go for two.
Mhm.
And his idea is more, well, as long as they don't score. And I think that's where Rafa Marquez needs to come in and show his ideology of how to play offensively.
Yeah, because he has that resume. He has that La Masia background, that Barcelona background. I mean, all the kids over there, they know how to from like 12 years old, they know how to play out the back, and that's the way they've been
Yeah,
trained. And he
they know
knows
how
that very well too.
they know how
So
you're supposed to attack creatively because a lot of people think that building up the back is just like, oh, you go wide, you play this, and then the midfielders fall here, the wingers make a little run, you play the mid. It's not just that.
No,
It's
these are things that you practice like every
yeah,
single day. The same repetition, same movements from all 10 players that are outside of the box. There's
it's a different ideology because you're playing on the fly. Like they prepare you for almost every scenario, but it still comes up to you and to your unique talent, your unique brain of how to come out of these circumstances. And the thing is
Mhm.
that it's like El Vasco. He's an older coach, so I understand, but it's like he never adapted to how to play offensively. And we'll see what Rafa Marquez brings to that because I have faith that he has that ideology. But
That's why I like the idea of these two footballing brains that are definite polar opposites, but I think they complement each other very well because El Vasco can give like that defensive solidarity and that he can bring out the best individual like from the actual person. He can definitely bring out the best out of them. But when it comes to Rafa Marquez, I think he has just a different idea of how to play, and I think he can definitely bring that into the Mexican national team, like something Barcelona esque. Obviously, it's very difficult with the level of players that we have, but I mean, if you work at it every single day, they're bound to pick something up. And I
yeah,
think you just need more time, pretty much. That's all they need. They had like 5, 6 training sessions in the past like 5, 6 days, so it's really hard to lock in a style of play or to really get the players to understand what the coaches are trying to teach them. So maybe by 2026, we'll definitely see both of their hands in the mix. One thing that I also really liked about Rafa Marquez in this international window was how involved he was. Because a lot of pundits and a lot of people saying that like, oh, he's not even going to be in the stands, like he's not even going to be involved in the technical area. He's not going to be involved with the team. It's going to be all Vasco. But we saw how involved he gets, especially defensively with Johan, with Cesar, with Toro. I mean, he's giving instructions to these players and they listen because they know that. I mean, he's the best defender Mexico's ever had, probably one of the best defenders in the world ever. And we can argue that, but they're gonna respect him and they're gonna listen to him and they're gonna learn as much as they can from him. So I
yeah,
like he was heavily involved with our players, especially defensively.
yeah. I mean, that's why I like Rafa. I do like the pairing. I don't hate it, but I just don't think that it should have been El Vasco. I thought it should have been Rafa Marquez, maybe the Vasco his um
Consistent.
as his assistant, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I mean,
Overall,
o-
I mean,
o-
there's
overall
really not
going,
much we can talk
yeah.
about on the match. Pretty much. I mean, the
But
subs that came on: Moso, Martin, Charlie.
we should talk about what we should talk about is that there's about 32K fans in a
Yeah,
stadium that fits about roughly, I think it was like what 60, 70,
I think it was like 70,
70. I mean,
maybe more.
I heard that they remade the field for this game. It was like
Mhm.
$500,000 for the field.
Yeah, it was like $450,000,
I mean, if you think about it, 32,000 people showed up, and each ticket was about $100,
give or take.
give or take. So they spent like so it was like $320,000. Like, I mean, if you $320,000, you didn't even get paid back in tickets for what the field cost.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they lost money on that game for sure.
They probably lost money on it. I mean, because you still have to, buy beer, buy this, buy that, and if that
Mhm.
doesn't sell, I mean, it's a loss. But
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
good.
that's probably my favorite part about this international window, besides seeing a little bit more identity with the national team, is the fact that the fans they noticed and they see that if they put pressure on the national team, and they're starting to do that. They see that they should put pressure, and they're starting to do that as well.
Yeah,
They're not gonna make it so easy for the federativos to just continue making money and making businesses off of the national team. Like this is like what I heard on Football Picante, that they're starting to treat the national team like a client. They're not just gonna consume the shit that they gave them. Like they're gonna be critical of what they're consuming now, which is good, which is what we need to see, which is what I want to see as well.
which is what's like possible now with like these everybody on TikTok was boycott FMF. We hopped on it. We started that boycott FMF, and
Mhm.
it's starting to show in the stadiums. But I really wanted to show in the team.
Yeah. So I mean, I hope that based on the attendance and based on yeah, but based off of attendance, that the players kind of they try more to try to get more aficionados back into the stadiums. I think it's kind of ironic that the fact here in the U.S. obviously none of the games were sold out, very poor attendances. But in Mexico, I mean, they already said that Guadalajara sold out and that the Cuauhtemoc is going to be it's going to have a solid showing of fans. So a lot of the fans in Mexico are always constantly talking down upon all the fans here in the states, telling us to boycott, to stop showing up, and then over here they're selling out stadiums. Like I think it's kind of hypocritical of a lot of Mexicans that live in Mexico you know, telling us pochos that we're the problem when really, I mean,
It's
they're
them.
just as culpable as us.
Yeah,
So
and I mean the Mexican peso has been fluctuating between 16 pesos and 20. So I mean, if they just hold on to their pesos for a bit and wait for it to go down 16, it's almost like making dollars, but in a sold out one.
mhm, mhm.
So it's like
Now, overall, I want to ask you a quick question for the next international break. Before we get into a quick prediction, who's a player that you want to see more of from the convocados that we have, and then players that you don't want to see?
so the players that I would want to see more of, honestly, probably like that played or that just went and could have not
That
played.
played and maybe didn't play because keep in mind, Padilla, Flores, Fidel Ambris, and Guillermo Martinez did not play at all. Didn't see any minutes. And that Flores specifically, that he didn't play, I think it was a complete robbery. I mean, I feel bad for the guy. I understand he's young, but I mean, he's doing things good at Tigres. He
Yeah,
didn't see any minutes at the Copa America when he was called up to the Copa America. Again, in a friendly, I mean, he could have seen at least like 20 minutes, right? I mean, compared to Linus and Cordova, the fact that Flores didn't get any minutes, I think that was pretty sad.
yeah.
But I mean,
For me,
time will only
I
tell.
would like to see Marcelo maybe get into that role that Diego Lainez had at least, where he's getting 10, 15 minutes per game,
Mhm.
and he can show us what he does. And I know he's going to score in one of those opportunities. So Marcelo Flores for sure, one of them that I'd like to see. Definitely Padilla because I like how
Yeah.
his 2 games at Athletic Bilbao. Eric Lira for sure because of what we were talking about and how he showed us how good he is defensively. A player I'd also like to see more of is Mosco because Araujo I think was a little nervy in the first half, first 15, first 20 minutes, and when Mosco came on, it's almost like he felt. And Mosco also always plays like alterado. He always plays like with like if he was, I don't know, like if he was on an adrenaline rush. So it's
I
kind of
think
when
he
he came in,
workout before the match. Honestly, yeah, I
he
see
took a
that.
little pre-workout, huh?
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's how he played.
it's just he did come in getting a yellow, but he was able to come up to the height of the game on the level of adrenaline. He was going up and down. He was winning balls defensively. I mean, he
Mhm,
was playing off of his right center back. I think it was Toro Guzman,
mhm.
and I mean, he even megged the left winger. I was like,
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
fuck? Most of fucking meg the left winger, and then just continue to play through. You could see how that stability helped Alvarado because Mosto was going up because Mosto is a right back that defends well, and well, maybe doesn't know how to defend in the how would I say in the most perfect manner, but he's tracking back and winning balls.
yeah.
And maybe they take him, but he doesn't give up. I'm not saying he's like top 10 defenders in the world. I'm just saying like he has that heart where if they take him, he doesn't give up and he wins the ball back and he's able to defend well.
Yeah.
But and he's also able to attack. And I honestly think he's better at attacking than defending. And I mean, if you give him a couple more opportunities, everybody will be able to see that. And I know a lot of America fans are gonna be hating, but I mean, a lot of America fans have also been saying that hey, like he was pretty good. Like he did better than Israel Reyes because I mean, Israel Reyes did it against New Zealand, also did it against Canada, and he megged the fucking guy going forward. And I mean, he plays on like 100 miles per hour, yeah, for sure. But I mean, we'll see what happens with him. But I also definitely
Yeah.
like Angulo. what's his first name? So they don't confuse him with the other one.
Jesus.
Jesus Angulo. And
Yeah.
I mean, attacks decently, defends very well. I like more defensively.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
he shows a lot of heart. I definitely want to see him again. I think he could fight for that starting position because he is younger than Gallardo. I think he's about 4 years younger than Gallardo.
Mhm.
And I feel like, I mean, I honestly just like the guy because he's able to play simple. He's able to go forward and he's able to defend, which is really
Yeah.
just the marks that you need as a left back.
I think
And
moving forward, Gallardo is definitely a lot better,
yeah,
but defensively, he seems a little bit more solid. Like he gives me a little bit more tranquility at the back
yeah.
versus
Like I would see him tracking back, and I would just think like, oh, we're good, and then like he would just prove it, and I would be like, oh yeah, like this guy knows what he's fucking doing. And
mm,
then I would like to see Araujo more because although I get it's a difficult game, he has to fucking guard. I think it's like Fonzie,
Alfonso Davies
yeah,
and the other
Alfonso Davies,
here.
and the other two, and he's like they're like fast as fuck. And although they did take him, he's physical and he's physically strong enough and competent to fucking track back. I mean, he's fast as
Yeah,
fuck. Like
because they're gonna get past him. I mean, a lot of players of Alfonso Davies' stature will get past their
right
defensive
back.
marker. I mean, at least 5 times out of 10, right? Realistically, but Julian Araujo is fast enough to catch up to him. I think
Yeah,
he has a similar pace to Alfonso Davies. Davies
I,
probably a little faster, but
I feel like Araujo lacks what Mosto has in the terms of experience because like Mosto and Israel Reyes, like that little edge of defensive experience where they're
mhm,
just like they kind of like sit on the forward and wait for him to make a move, then attack. Whereas Araujo he's kind of like the initial one making the move and like waiting for their counter. You get me?
yeah,
And it's kind of like you're a right back, be patient, let your players get back. You're like you don't have to go 100 miles per hour the whole time. But it's I mean he's still great because he has the young legs, so he's able to get back, he's able to track back, but
I
he does
honestly
need
feel like he would have had a better game if the referee didn't give him that
that
yellow,
young.
that wasn't a yellow in the first half. Because
Yeah,
then
and
he had to be a little bit more cautious on what he was doing defensively, and then so it kind of handicaps you in the match when you're on a yellow. You're scared, to put a
yeah,
foot wrong, to make a foul. Like you play a little bit more cautious, and you can't have that defensively.
you can't really slide anymore. Every ball you compete for has to be shoulder to shoulder or like at least in the proximity. You can't pull
Mhm.
anybody anymore. But yeah, I understand that, but I just feel like I wanted to see an Araujo that I seen at Las Palmas. Like, you get me?
Yeah,
But then again,
I think he'll definitely get to that level. I mean, we need to see him get
yeah,
more consistent run of minutes under the national team. And I mean, they're barely starting the Premier League. They only have like 2 or 3 games played.
yeah,
So I think once we go into the October season or October international break, and if he's there, and then going into the next international break after that, I mean, he'll definitely be a little bit more up to par with his natural ability. So I completely agree with you with all the players. Rangel, obviously, I want to see more of him too.
Rangel,
Uh,
yeah, because I
yeah,
really
for
like
sure.
Rangel because I really like how he plays out with his feet.
Mhm.
No, he plays. It's simple.
It's effective
It's
too. Like
simple,
it
effective.
doesn't matter.
He doesn't. He's not blasting the fucking ball. He's waiting for the forward to get close. Let the ball go. Obviously, an obvious pass, but not all the time. Sometimes he was looking at his left back and he would see his left center mid open, play it, skip a little bit. But my thing is that's so important in football. You get me? Like you have to know which options are taken to be able to play simple and strong, and it completely it falls in line with Gago style because Gago, he played for Boca, for Real Madrid, and they have that similar style where we play simple out of the back. Yeah, Real Madrid plays simple out of the back and then does that long ball, which maybe Gago doesn't do, but it's that simple ideology of the keeper to maintain possession, not just blast it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna completely agree with all the picks for players that we want to see more of. I'm gonna name some of the players that I don't want to see. Quinones. Honestly, I'm tired of seeing him in the list because he really doesn't bring anything to the Mexican national team. He plays in Saudi Arabia, and if we're not calling up MLS players, why are we calling up Saudi Arabian players? Quinones for sure. Diego Lainez and Cordova. I understand why they're there. They're young. They've have experience in the national team, but based off of current form and based off of what Javier Aguirre has said on calling up players that are in their best moments, they're not in their best moment. They're not even starting. I think right now, Antuna is definitely going to be starting. Osiel Herrera's starting on the left wing at Tigres. These guys are. I mean, Linus did start the last match, but he's not getting a consistent run of minutes either, and he's not doing anything for Tigres. It's outstanding. Same thing with Cordova. He's not having a good season.
No, yeah, I'd definitely rather have Osiel Herrera than Linus. And
Yeah,
I'm
for
sure
sure.
could definitely give that competition to Chino Huerta.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. Memo Martinez, who's not going through a good moment. I mean, I said this in one of the last episodes for the Road to Mexico. Funes Mori is the literal player that's starting in front of Memo Martinez. And if Funes Mori is the guy starting in front of you, you're his backup, then he shouldn't even be in the national
And
team right now.
Funes Mori is eligible to play for Mexico, so I mean,
Yeah, like if that's the case, call up Funes Mori. I mean,
yeah.
I don't
If
even
it,
want to see Funes Mori.
this
Honestly, I
is
don't want.
this is this is going solely off the base that Vasco said the best players in their moment. You get me?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's the whole basis.
So Memo Martinez and then Henry Martin. I mean, just also doesn't do much. Like, yeah, he'll hold up the ball and have a few good plays here, but I mean, I don't know. Those are basically the players I wouldn't want to see more of. That I
Yeah,
don't
I
want to see.
agree with you. Martinez, like a lot of people compare him and Santi, right? And they'll say, "Oh, like, well, they will hold up the ball well. You know, they barely score, whatever this that." Like Santi's 23, Martin's like a year and a few months from 33.
Mhm.
Like he's damn near a decade on him, and you want like it's so stupid, you know, because Santi can develop more as a player, but Henry Martin, like he's
Yeah,
like, bro,
he's
come
reached
on,
he's reached the ceiling,
he's
and
reached
it's
the ceiling.
America, Liga MX, but that's not the same case for Santi.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Santi's freaking Feyenoord, you know. Bayern Leverkusen is looking at Santi for the winter window. You have other teams looking at Santi for the winter window. I mean, I heard who was the team that tried to bottom Nottingham Forest? They're trying to get more money to try again in the winter. It's just why like if everybody else sees something in him, we that means we just need to find the right players to produce around him. I think Vasco sees that and giving him a technical Rebelin, a technical Roberto Alvarado, and a technical Chino Huerta, so all Santi has to focus on his score.
Mm-hmm.
And but since Santi isn't used to that, you know, he's sitting outside the box. Now we just need to tell him, hey, like sit inside the box. So it's just, I mean,
Yeah.
that's my opinion.
Overall, since you already kind of gave your ranking before we got into it, you think you said it was a 6, right, for the international window? I
Yeah,
probably give it similar 6.5. We didn't concede at all, so that's good. We didn't lose at all, so that's good. I would like to win against Canada, but I think 6.5 it's good. It's average. You're passing. It's just enough. I think we could have done more. If we beat New Zealand 6-0 and we were consistent with the opportunities that we had, I would have said a 7. But
if we beat New Zealand 6-0 and beat Canada 2-0, I'd say it's like an 8.
an 8,
But
9, yeah,
that
for
was
sure.
that wasn't the
But
case though.
yeah, that wasn't the case. So 6.5, I think that's fair enough. And then going into the next international break in October, just quick predictions. We won't preview it, the match. We can save that down the road. But against Valencia and against US, what are you seeing? What are you seeing? Wins, ties, losses right here? What do you think?
Okay, so they're both in Mexico. Where's the first one played at?
In el Estadio Cuauhtémoc against Valencia and Puebla.
I mean, I think Mexico can win that game.
I think we'll win that game, especially because Valencia's not going through a good moment right now. I think they're
Yeah,
dead last, if not like third to last.
yeah, it is. But at least it'll teach us how to press possession based teams, which you know, Valencia is a Spanish La Liga team, so kind of in their DNA. Now versus the US, I think it's gonna be
That's gonna
either
be a difficult match.
so
Only
how I
be,
see the US right now and how I see Mexico right now is gonna be a win for Mexico.
I think we
Because
can win.
because how the US plays scrappy and stuff like that, Vasco is used to that. He wants them to play like that.
Yeah, and bro, they
And
just lost
is
to New
that
Zealand and then lost to Canada, so they didn't have a good international window. Yes, they're gonna have Pochettino, but he's only gonna have like 3 or 4 training sessions with them. It's not gonna be enough.
yeah, the thing is that the US fans are gonna tell you, oh, you know, Mexico hasn't beat the US and you know, we
Five
got
years.
years. And but Mexico has never lost to the US and Mexico in
Mhm.
that same amount of time. I mean, the best US result has had in Mexico was a tie in the World Cup qualifiers.
Didn't we lose? Wait, no, I think it was a 1-1 when Bradley scored that like chip over Ochoa.
One that tight end, remember he like cut in left shot to the bottom right.
Oh yeah.
So even then, but
For
yeah,
that
so
game, probably I
different.
can see a tie, but I would hope Mexico win just because of it's going to be a sold out stadium in Guadalajara, very passionate fans. I think we'll have a little bit more experience over Pochettino, at least in the international team window. And I think the players are going to be in a better moment than what we are in right now. So
Yeah,
I think we could definitely get 2 wins in the next international break. But
yeah.
gonna keep it there right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, check out our personal pages and all social media platforms as well. Support your small creators because together we're gonna make it big. Tomas, I appreciate you hopping on. It's been a minute, but it's good to have you back. I hope you can hop on to more podcasts and more of the road to 2026 videos because I mean that's gonna be something we're gonna continue weekly. Liga MX is back this weekend. El Clásico Nacional is on Saturday, so definitely stay tuned for that video on Monday. That will be coming out. Overall, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.
So